First thing that I want you to do in this video is to download a resource that comes with this video. So I've given you this package called Player Arms. I've packaged everything up just so it's easier for import. So let's just click on this in order to open it. You'll notice that it's got all of these things. It's got a number of animations and it's actually got a character just with the arms rendered that we can attach to this first person player. So let's just import all of that. Okay, it shouldn't take too long to import. It's not a huge file. And there we go. Okay, so the character himself is in the player main views. Okay, we've got animations, materials, etc. And the prefabs we can see here, just these arms. Okay, and they're set up at the moment. Don't worry too much about the position of those. It will all make sense later once we attach it to the character. Now I've also given you something, a new folder called graphics that has in itself a flashlight graphic. I just want to explain now, if we can go to standard assets, we've got something in here called cookies. Let's see if I can find those. It might be under effects. Light cookies. Okay, so if I double click on these textures, we get various cookie effects, okay, that can be used. What you do with these is you attach them to a light and it actually modifies the look of the light. So for example, this one's a hard light, this one's a soft light, this one has a sort of a checkered pattern on it. These ones are mostly for flashlights. And they're not bad to be honest. They do give the impression of a flashlight, but I've just modified this one slightly so that it just looks slightly better, I think, as a flashlight graphic for this game. So I've given you this image. Currently it's a texture. We need to change this into a cookie image. We can see from the bottom that it's only 256 by 256 pixels. So the first thing we need to change is this max size, so that it matches. Okay, and then we're going to change its texture type from a default to a cookie, and then we're going to click apply. Alright, there we go, so it's changed it. Now if we find the first person controller from the hierarchy and we find the spotlight, now I'm wondering why I've got two spotlights on there. Is this one? Ah, okay. Culling mask. This was for the enemies, wasn't it? To light up the enemies. Okay, that's fine. So I'm just going to rename that because it did confuse me a little bit there. So I'll call this enemy spotlight. Okay, and this one I'm going to change it from spotlight to flashlight so that I understand what it is. Okay, where it says cookie, currently we've got non-texture. Let's just drag this into there. And now that's assigned. So the light will now be projecting this image into wherever it goes. So it looks a little bit more like a flashlight. It's slightly more convincing. Okay, and when you're playing the game, if you want to change any of these values, you can change the spot angle or the range or even the color if you want. Experiment with it. Because obviously you can come back to this video and see these default values, and if you do change the color, this is the hexadecimal color that we went with before. Feel free to experiment. At least you can always reset the values if you need to. Okay, so what we're going to work on now is a simple script just to switch this flashlight on or off. So I've got a folder, my scripts. I'm going to right click, choose create a new C# script, and then we'll call it flashlight. Okay. What happened there? Let me double click to open it. There we go. Now it's opened. All right, great. So we're inside of the flashlight script. The first thing that we need is a slot where we can associate the light that is the flashlight, so we can set it in the inspector. So to do that, we're going to serialize it. Serialize fields. It is of type, it's simply a game object. We could get into naming it light and all the rest of it, but game object's fine, it works perfectly fine. I'm going to call this flashlight so we know what we're putting in there. Then we need another serialized field. This one is a boolean, so it's going to be a type bool. And I'm simply going to call this light on. This is going to tell us if the light is currently on or off. Okay, and it's false by default because obviously the light is not switched on. Just a little bit about serialized fields. If we notice in the character controller, there's no serialized fields in here. We simply have private or public. So private is hidden from the inspector. Public is viewable in the inspector. Serialized does the same thing as public. It simply makes it viewable in the inspector. But the difference is that by serializing it, whatever the variable name is, it recognizes that it belongs to this script and this script alone. Whereas if you have a public variable, it doesn't associate it with any specific script. Which means if you have 2 or 3 different scripts all having the same variable names, Unity is going to get confused and it's going to throw up an error. So by serializing things, it ensures that Unity understands everything and you shouldn't get many errors by doing that. So it's the best way to do it, by serializing, as opposed to just using public. Okay, so now we go under update, and in fact we don't actually need this start, so I'm just going to get rid of that for now. So under update, we're going to say if input dot get key down, because we only want it to do it once, not over and over again. Key code, let's say dot F for flashlight. Okay, if you wanted L, then obviously it's just capital L, but I'm going to go with F. All right, whenever it's just a simple lettered key on the keyboard, it's always just a capital or whatever letter it is. Now we need to put in the curly brackets, and we're going to say if light on is equal to false, which it currently is, then do something. Now this is going to enable us to use F to switch the light on and off by using this if condition, so that it can check if it's currently on or currently off. Okay, so if it's currently false and it's off, then we're going to say flashlight dot game object with a little g dot set active, and we're going to set this to true. So we simply want to switch it on. And then we need to tell it that the light is now on. So light on equals true. I'm just going to highlight all of this and copy it, because it saves having to type it all out again. Press enter. We're going to press Control and V, or you could just do paste. And now we're going to say if light on is equal to true. What do we do? Well, we reverse all of this. We set this one to false, so it switches the light off, and we set light on back to false again, so it recognizes it's now switched off. And where it says if, we don't want it to do both of these. We want this to be an else if. Okay, so it's going to check if it's currently switched on. If it's currently switched off, it's going to do this. But if it's not currently switched off, else if it's not switched off, if it's on, it's then going to do this. All right, so you have to be careful about not just doing if and if. It has to be an else if. Okay, so that one's not true, it will then go to this one. If that one's true, it will ignore this one. If you don't do that, the light will instantly switch on and switch off. It'll be too quick for you to see it, and you won't notice that it's switched off. Okay, so that's the script. We're going to save that script, and I've got an error. Let me have a look at what error it is. Flashlight member names cannot be the same as their enclosing type. Okay, so in other words, I can't use that because I've used it as a class. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little f on this one. Flashlight. So now I'm going to set this one to flashlight, and this one also to flashlight. There we go, that will solve the problem. So what it was recognising there was the overall class. So it was trying to switch the class on and off, which is weird. And that error should disappear. There we go. Let's press clear on all of that. And we're going to attach this flashlight to the FPS controller. And we can just simply drag that onto the FPS controller. It appears, and now we'll tell it to switch the flashlight on or off. Okay, now bear in mind that we do have an enemy spotlight as well. So your task for the next session is to have modified this script to ensure that the second light, the enemy spotlight, does the same as the first light, the flashlight. So whenever you switch the flashlight off, it will also switch the enemy spotlight off as well.